Donald Trump has long suffered from delusions of grandeur. When it comes to his mounting legal issues, he likes to portray himself as a martyr, a victim of political persecution. Just a few months ago, he was comparing himself to a truly historic figure.
I'll tell you what, I don't mind being Nelson Mandela because I'm doing it for a reason. I'm doing it for a reason. Doing it for a reason. We got to save our country from these fascists, these lunatics that we're dealing with. They're horrible people.
Nope. No. Now, I could easily go into the countless ways that Trump is nothing like Mandela, but who has the time? And just last night, Trump made yet another inapt comparison. Trump doubled down on his comparison of his criminal and civil prosecutions, including the most recent $355 million civil penalty to the circumstances of Russian dissident Alexei Navalny, the top political opponent to Trump's autocratic pal, Russian President Vladimir Putin, whose name Trump never uttered.
Even if you appeal, you got to put up escrow money. That's it's a lot of dough.
It is a form of Navalny. It is a form of communism or fascism. Navalny is a very sad situation, and he's very brave. He was a very brave guy. It's a horrible thing, but it's happening in our country, too. We are turning into a communist country in many ways, and if you look at it, I'm the leading candidate. I get indicted. I never heard of being indicted before.
What in the gobbledygook? Navalny's death in a Russian prison was announced last week. He had been imprisoned since his return to Russia in January 2021 after surviving a near-fatal poisoning months earlier. Whatever Trump said makes absolutely no sense. Joining me now is Jill Wine-Banks, former assistant Watergate special prosecutor and an MSNBC legal analyst. Do you understand what he said?
No.
Okay.
I do understand that he missed the comparison. The comparison is him to Putin. His threat that he would use SEAL Team 6 to kill his opponent, well, that's what Putin does. He kills his opponents.
Exactly. And the comparison to Mandela, I won't even go there because it'll just give me agita even attempting to unpack that. Let me play you another soundbite of Donald Trump, because part of what he is trying to do with his audience, and they love it, they accept it, is to say he committed no crimes because everything he did, he was allowed to do, he had total immunity to do. Here he is talking about one of the most obvious crimes, taking those classified documents. Here he is talking about that.
Why didn't you just hand them over when they were requested, though? I mean, they requested them. You could have just handed them over. Probably saved yourself a lot of trouble.
First of all, I didn't have to hand them over. But second of all, I would have done that. We were talking, and then all of a sudden they raided Mar-a-Lago. Do you remember? They said, could you put an extra lock on the door? We showed them where they were. We showed them.
No.
No, no, and no. He said three things there, all of which are false. They put a new lock in. They hid things, they moved things, then they tried to destroy the videotape of them moving things. He did not have a right to move them. He had no right to retain them. He makes a comparison to Bill Clinton, who kept diaries. So did Richard Nixon. Mm-hmm. Those are things that are personal and that a president can keep. But all other presidential documents are not to be kept by the former occupant. They aren't intended for that, and it's such clear law. The Presidential Records Act was a result of Richard Nixon, and it makes it very clear that they are government documents and must be left in the care of the National Archives, not taken as personal possessions.
Let's talk for a moment about Tish James, who is the national hero at this point, yes, because she is the one saying not only did she beat Trump in the civil fraud case, but she says, give me your properties. You're either going to pay or you're going to give me your properties. What do you make of that?
She's absolutely right. He has to come up with the money. He's been adjudged to have been a fraud, and the judgment is a huge judgment. He cannot appeal unless he posts cash in about $500 million almost because of interest accruing daily, or he has to put up his own money. So he has to pay a bond, which means extra interest, or he has to put up his own money. And if he fails to do that, the judgment becomes judgment-proof. He has to pay it.
Yeah.
And so she's prepared to seize his property, and she will be able to do that. She can put liens on it to collect it, but she has more power than just you and I as citizens. If we needed, a contractor
like
doesn't do the job.
Agency.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly. She can actually seize the buildings and remove the words Trump and the value goes up as soon as those words come down.
That's true.
You're here in Chicago. You saw Trump Tower.
That's right.
And it's an offense every time you walk past that.
Yeah, as soon as the name comes down, the value of the properties actually go up, 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 up. Let me play you Donald Trump's typical defense for everything he does. He says it's perfect. Here it is.
You borrow a small amount of money by comparison, you pay it back. The bank is in love with you. This was a perfect loan. I got impeached, and it was a perfect call to the president of Ukraine. But we made perhaps an even more perfect call to the Secretary of State of Georgia, which is my right.
Let me tell you about the travel ban. We had a very smooth rollout of the travel ban. The rollout was perfect.
But our border was perfect. I'm back because I'm a perfect physical specimen, and I'm extremely young.
I mean, it's a silly defense, but I guess it works with his audience.
It is a political defense. It's not going to work in any courtroom. Nothing he said in any of those clips has any resemblance to fact or law or truth. It just doesn't. And so it's not going to help him as a defense.
Yeah.
Everything he says is just a lie.
It's perfectly stupid. Here is, I have to ask you what your pin is. I'm seeing you in person for the first time in a long time. I love asking you what your pin is. Tell me what it is.
Of course, it's a Chicago hot dog because I love Chicago hot dogs. And the sisters-in-law actually have a fight. Kimberly says D.C. hot dogs are the best, and Barbara says Detroit hot dogs are the best. And for our live shows, we each are serving hot dogs. So what can I say? D.C. wasn't bad.
I'm willing to try them all just as a neutral observer. I'm just going to volunteer myself as tribute. Jill Wine-Banks, it's so good to be in your city. Thank you very much. And